We had this company, it was probably one of our earliest SEEQ projects. We had done all of our work prior to that just in sort of workshop form, very scrappy website-based online collection, doing all the things to sort of prove the methodology, but doing it in a cobbled together way. So we finally got it all together in the SEEQ platform, and one of our earliest customers was a management consulting firm. And they came to us with the problem. They said, everybody has imposter syndrome. I was like, who, first of all, who says that? Second of all, that's not true. And third of all, who says that? And I had a lot of biases. I was the only people who have imposter syndrome are black people and women and other people who've had a really, really tough time. And they have to make up, who they show up as. I mean, that's where I was coming from as a person of color, as a black man. That's where I was coming from. And I did my own little research before we started the project, and I was like, James, there's a lot of people who legitimately have imposter syndrome. And I know people don't like that, acknowledging that in some cases, because sometimes we want to hold on to the preciousness of our pain. And I'm like, this can't be everybody's problem, because then it's not really a problem. I need it to be a problem for me so you can do something about it. But anyway, I digress. He said, we have a lot of people who have imposter syndrome. Now they're recruiting from like the Ivies and the Ivies of the South and all. I'm like, how can these people have imposter syndrome? Like, you're recruiting the best of the best. So I said, what's the business problem? He said, well, when they have imposter syndrome, they come in, they're uncertain, they're not comfortable, and they don't get plugged in really quick. And we got to get them plugged in really quickly so that they can learn. And then we need them to learn so they can take a leadership role quickly. Because in this firm's sort of employee experience, what they were lauded for was this wasn't just, hey, the newest people are getting the grunt work. This was, we really put you in on client-facing teams in a meaningful role. You're not just doing all the research, like we brought you in for your thinking. And that was why their Val prop was so stressed, because it was like, we can't do that if we can't get these people in and get them plugged in early. That's their competitive advantage, that they are not just churning through junior consultants, associates to find 1 out of 100, that they're actually finding the best 10 and keeping those 10 and making a difference. So we did our project, right? And we learned a few things about what was driving people's insecurity, what was driving their sense of imposter syndrome. And we prompted that. We said, here's the definition in case you think you do or don't have it. They wrote some of the most profound stories. The thing that shifted this organization, it was, like you said, it was a small little nugget. We also asked some of their executives to participate. Now, we had not done a lot of that. And the executives all said, when I started my career, I felt this insecure. I didn't know what I was doing. I was afraid. I thought people would find out that I was a fraud. And that commonality, you had all these new high potential young folks who saw their executives as like gods. And when we looked at the themes and we were able to break it down between executives and recently hired associates, and they saw the commonality in our debrief presentation, they started forming connection in the room. They started to realize, hey, this senior executive has been through the exact same thing I've been through. They want me to be successful. They're sharing the ideas that help them navigate without anybody caring about their imposter syndrome. The answers are literally in our room. So we've heard that phrase a million times in business. That was the first time I saw it happen outside of a facilitated all afternoon game plan session. That was, wait a minute, you've already done this. You know how to do this. That got enabled by SEEQ. And so that kind of gave us a little bit of an insight into this idea that there are hidden commonalities that we don't know. And when you identify those, that's where you get a really big shift, because all kind of things happen. People see themselves as the same, not other. They realize that they're connected, not divided. And in an organization, that's like jet fuel. If you can just get people connected, forget training, development, just get people connected and engaged. Imagine what you could do in that culture. So I think that was one where they said, hey, I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to have more story sharing time where our executives will have lunch and learns and talk about the early days of their career. That's it. That was their solution. We're just going to talk more about our journey with you. so you don't feel like this is the first time any person on the planet has ever had to overcome this. That's how they solved it.